Welcome to People Doing Good for Others, where we praise and celebrate and hold in the light those who are truly making differences in our communities. We thank you very much for being with us today. I'm Gary York, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. We want to thank our sponsors, Wilkes Communications, River Street Productions, and 100.9 WIFM. And again, thank you for being with us. Our featured guest to my immediate right, Ken Noland. He's the outstanding manager of the town of Wilkesboro. He's also an active gardener, and we're going to be talking about the Cub Creek Community Garden today. And it's a significant initiative. It's a great tribute to this community and those who serve it. To Ken's right is Gary Dent. He's a master gardener, which is part of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension. He's also a significant volunteer and puts in a lot of time at the Cub Creek Community Garden. So glad to have you here, man. And it's a great way to start with us, Ken Noland. How did it get going?
Okay, well, late fall 2010, early winter 2010, a young lady working for the health department, Amanda Stamper, made contact with us and asked if we might be interested in putting a community garden in to serve some youth or serve people in Wilkes County. So from there, we actually formed a committee. I said, that sounds like a great idea. Let's see if we can't make that work. And she was working on a grant application at the time with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and it was kind of a healthy living grant. And its objective was to reduce childhood obesity, and they did that promote healthy living, eating, and access to healthy foods. And so the community garden seemed like a natural fit for that. And so we brought Bill Hanlon in. At the time, he was Cooperative Extension Director, and we started meeting on it. Shortly thereafter, Bill Hanlon worked to get the master gardeners involved, and we just kept working on this till we got our first garden plots out there. One of the great things that made it successful from the start was this grant. It was a $7,000 grant, so that gave us seed money to get tools, put a fence up, build a building, and kind of make it much more convenient for the gardeners who may not have any materials at all to work with. And of course, I should also mention that Walmart here locally gave us $1,000 towards this, and we got that through town intern at the time, Chris Wagner. He now works for the town full-time, but at that time I challenged him to find some other money, and he found $1,000 at Walmart. So that $8,000 allowed us to, again, buy tools and put all the things together, kind of kick this off. And then really with the help of Cooperative Extension and the Master Gardeners, that's really where the meat and potatoes formed, to getting the actual activity going.
Gary Dent, share with us a master gardener, a lady or a man, those things. It's a lot about being a volunteer, so you're caring about it and your significant involvement as a master gardener.
Well, I attended a conference that was on food and faith, and it talked about the importance of growing local vegetables and people having access to nutritious food. And so I had a great interest in gardening, and I then participated in an educational program taught by the Ag Extension Office called Master Gardener Program. And it was several weeks long, and at the end, we were awarded our certificate as a master gardener, and that brought us into contact with the community garden, and we volunteered to help establish it and get it started and to monitor it.
But you've been gardening all your life. Did you tell me that?
Well, I have been gardening all my life. My wife got me interested in gardening way back when, and it has just developed more and more. And I had a good friend, and he was in the Master Gardener. He wanted to go take a Master Gardener course, and he called me and said, "Come on and you go with us." And so Jerry Poquette was his name, and I went and enrolled in the Master Gardener course.
And that's with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension
Yes,
Office.
and Bill Hanlon taught the course.
Did he?
And he
Wow.
brought speakers in, and they talk about all different kinds of aspects of gardening, not just vegetable gardening, but also, fruits and those kind of things. So it's insects and diseases, just very full of information.
Right. Ken Noland, tell us about the commissioner meeting and how you went back and a group of you, or a group appeared there, and the land was set aside and the site selection. Did you pick the site, or?
Well, I work with Cliff Gardner, our Parks and Rec director, and Cliff Cliff runs all of our parks in Wilkesboro, and we were doing some work down there with some renovations of the creek system there, and we used to have a nursery in the area where the gardens are now. And we had to take the nursery out because of the construction going on. So that land was sitting there vacant. It seemed like a great place to put back this community garden. So that's kind of how we picked the site. But then we did have to go to the council. The town council had to approve the concept and the plan. So we went to them. We asked for their blessing to do this project. They had a couple of things. One is they didn't want to have additional costs.
Sure.
And we told them we thought that we had the seed money to get it going. And then our intent was, and we do charge $20 a plot, and then we take those funds and we use them for their supplies and materials to maintain the garden. So the garden itself doesn't cost the city taxpayers anything. It's all self-supporting. But the city council did have to agree to that. They also requested at the time that Wilkesboro citizens got first pick.
Sure.
And then once they've had an opportunity, then open it up to anybody in the county. And we've been able to open it up to others in the county to come in and use the garden space.
Gary Dent, tell us about the layout. What can one find there if you are chosen to be a gardener? How big's your plot? And some of that.
Yeah, our plots are 4 feet wide and 24 feet long. That way you can work both sides of the plot without walking in it. That's why the 4 feet. So you can access them from both sides, obviously. We also have a couple plots that are raised 36 inches off the ground for people that have trouble bending over or want to garden and so forth. We call them handicap accessible.
Okay.
And we have, of course, the tool shed and all the tools in there. We've had donations of the rototillers that people have donated to us, and we've also had a couple that we've been able to buy. So a person that comes down there, they have access to the tools in the shed, they have access to wheelbarrows and tillers, and they have access to plants. They also get seeds. We have donated plants that come to the garden. And so we have a picnic table down there where people can sit and plan their garden and so forth. We have water in the garden that they have access to. So it's a full service kind of garden, and it's fenced so that the deer are not eating their plants and so forth. So, and it's secure. It's a fairly secure area. So.
Okay. Wow. I just you happened to bring a squash out of your garden this morning. I'm grateful for that. So here's a wonderful example of the good things that are happening at the Cub Creek Community Garden. And I also want to take an opportunity to show, this is a brochure, or how about an operations manual? And there must be at least 300 listings of the aids that you offer. Is that, and is this something you've been working on for years? So tell us a little bit about this, Gary Dent.
I think that we offer a lot of things when the gardener comes. One, the master gardeners provide support and technical information to people that don't know anything about gardening. So we try to help them learn and how to teach them, when to plant plants and what information they can access. And so they get that kind of help. The tools, as we mentioned. When they come into the garden, a lot of times, they have parents that have gardened, but that knowledge doesn't necessarily pass through. And so we try to provide whatever assistance we can. And some people can't till their garden. It's just too heavy of work, and so we master gardeners will help that with doing that. We also have built some bins in the back of our garden. So we have manure bin, we have wood chips that we can put on the path. We have a dead plant bin, so you can, when you have ready to get your plants out of the garden, you can a place to dispose of them. And so all of that material is provided. The town helps us provide the compost and the chips, and other volunteers give us the manure from the horse manure that we have. So it's very important to have good quality horse manure that doesn't have chemicals in it that kill the plants and so forth. So
Do you actually have people that will apply and be accepted that might not have any knowledge whatsoever
Yes.
about growing something?
yes, then they come down and
Wow.
we help provide that knowledge and support.
Get them started.
Right, absolutely.
How about that?
I'll also note, just real quick on that, we also have, because I mentioned the $20 fee earlier.
Yeah.
If you can't pay the fee, we have a program for that too. So that way we try to make sure everybody has
Scholarships.
access. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if there's a will, there's a way.
That's right.
How about that? Ken Noland, your wonderful community, Wilkesboro, has a composting program. Would you share that with me?
Sure. It's fairly new. It's been in existence for 3 years or so. Councilman Andy Suits, when he got on the board, this is kind of his business area. He works in landscaping and mulching and stuff, and so he kind of thought that we could better ourselves if we had our own facility, and we were working at the time trying to figure out what to do with some of our materials. The state rules were changing and so forth, and so we're required to recycle some of the material that we get in. And so when leaves and branches and stuff that come, we pick them up, and then we take them to a facility and we turn them into either mulch, or we turn them into compost through a process that the guys have down there, and then we make it available back to our different departments to put out in their plantings and try to protect the plantings around the town in the right of ways. You'll see right of ways around the interchanges. We mulch those with our mulch that we develop. For some of our plantings, we use compost for them to help grow or I guess nutrient the soil, make the soil better. So it's been a good program. So we're taking waste from the town and turning it back into a usable product and putting it back out there. And then of course a lot of that product comes up to our community garden, and it's really been a great benefit to the
Yes.
garden.
Let's describe again how many plots and this is a half acre. That's amazing, isn't it? How productive it is.
Right now we have around 55 plots, and then the Master Gardeners have 4 demonstration plots that they plant, and they donate all of that food to the Samaritan's Kitchen, which is our food bank, or to the library is feeding students this summer. We're donating food there. And also the senior center gets some food, and some other places. So we just are so appreciative of the town and what the town has done, this composting, and Cliff Gardner has helped us so much with establishing the garden, and he's so helpful. We have trash pickup, just that simple little thing. We have parking, access to come and park your car. And we have perimeter kinds of mowing the grass and keeping the garden really nice. It's just been a wonderful cooperative experience with the town and their support.
It's on Bridge Street, and that's called the Cub Creek Park. Is that? I think it's a good time for us to share a family who might want to have a plot this year. How would he get involved? How does that work?
Well, if a person's interested, they would go to the Ag Extension office.
Okay.
We have an application form. They would fill that out, and it would be kept until the beginning of the new year, if no plots are available now. They are all taken right now. Excuse me. But starting in January, we will have new plots. Anybody that wants to continue will pay, and they can continue. And then we'll see how many new plots we have available, and will first come, first served. They will be allocated with the preference given to the Wilkesboro citizens. Then, after that period of a couple months when people are getting their own, then if there's still plots available, then some people will ask for 2 plots. They would like to have more than 1 plot, and they'll be able to get their second plot. So
I was stopped down there this morning to kind of get a flavor of what we would be doing today, and there was a lady in the corner, and I spoke to her, and I just said, "What are you doing?" or asked her what and she said she stopped for 2 things: to pull the weeds and pick her tomatoes. And she was on the way to the Y to a course, and said she's in a hurry. That's kind of how it works. Now, you are an active gardener, not a master gardener, but you're an active gardener as your family.
Yes.
Ken Noland, share that experience with us.
Well, I was intrigued by the ideas, kind of in helping in developing it, and I said, well, I need a plot there too. You know, as a child, we grew a big garden, and it was a chore. And it was a struggle to get myself and my brothers out there to pick those beans and do the things you had to do. But now looking back on it, I look at those as fond memories, and so I wanted to kind of do it myself and get my kids involved. So I did that and gave them some lessons, and we went out there and tilled the garden ourselves and pulled weeds, planted plants, and so forth. So it's been kind of a good family event for us, and we grow a lot of good food out of that garden.
Yeah. Let's talk about the social, the culture, the people making community, as we call it, a community garden. Who would like to speak to the benefit of making new friends, if you will?
well, I'd be happy to just say that, you know, building a community is tough sometimes, but being at a community garden, you talk to each other, you're aware of what the other people are planting and what they're trying to grow. If you're using chemicals on your garden, you have to be very sensitive not to get their chemicals on other people's gardens and things like that. So it's a way of meeting each other. When people go on vacation, they say to their neighbor and plot, would you harvest my vegetables, or would you water my plants, and so forth, and we're always helping do that. We have pathways that have to be weeded, and we have community days, community garden days, where we work on that and keep the weeds out of the common areas. And it's a time to meet with each other, know what you're growing, and knowing what your schedules are and how we can help each other and so forth. Just the idea of, you know, when we take the dead plants back to the where we dispose of them, they are heavy, and you get a lot of green bean plants and so forth. So somebody has to take a big pitchfork and throw those things into the bin, and we help each other do that. I mean, it's just a common kind of thing to do. Simple, seems simple, and it seems a little thing, but it's an important thing.
How amazing. Do you have something to add to the social?
I would. You know, I look at that garden almost like a melting pot. I mean, the people there come from all different backgrounds and reasons why they're there, so it's kind of neat hearing from people. You'll go in there, if somebody's there already, I mean, they'll put their hand up, say, hey, how you doing? And ask what you're up to, what you're picking today, how's your garden doing? So it's been really a nice social experiment to participate in. And like you said, you know, when I've been gone, I've asked others to work my garden for me while I'm gone, and done
Work your garden.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
you don't want to, you know, that
Squash.
this is a good sized squash, but you don't want that squash looking like this. And if somebody doesn't pick that squash, that's what it'll look like in a few days. So,
Yeah.
you know, you don't want to waste the food. You find out somebody's planted something that you never ate yourself, or you never planted, and, you know, give you a tip of how to do it. I've never much been into okra, but maybe the second year, the person next to me was thinning their okra plants out, and I seen her, and I said, what are you doing with those? She said, well, I'm just thinning them out and throwing them away. And I said, well, let me have them. And so I took and planted them, and grew some okra and started eating that and was enjoying it. So you never know what will come out of it, but it's been a great experience, particularly the social part of it. I think it's good for our community.
Gary, share the most popular items planted, and you also talked about blueberries. Did you mention that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We have blueberry bushes down there that both the birds like and the gardeners like. So, but cucumbers have been such a big vegetable this year, and tomatoes. We have tomatoes and cucumbers. Squash is big. Peppers are big, obviously. We had lettuce early in the winter crop. There's 3 seasons of crops.
Talk about that. That was going to be one of my questions.
We have the early season when you can plant cold weather crops, and you can, like January, you can plant onions and get some crops started. You have your collards and your greens and so forth, and then you move into the warmer seasons and the green beans and the squash and the tomatoes and peppers, and then you're going to move into the fall garden, which in August you can plant a second thing of green beans and squash, and then you can get your collards and your broccoli and your cabbage and all the, so you have multiple seasons, and you can get this one little plot. Last year we had like 3,600 pounds of food produced in this one little half acre of garden. So, and this year we're right around 1,800 so far. We had 1,100 pounds in the first 15 days of July this year. So it's really coming in strong, and it looks beautiful down there. The birds love it, and we have a purple martin house down there, and the purple martins eat a lot of the insects. So, you get a benefit of having different things in the garden, and the birds help you with the insects, and we try to reduce the amount of spray and so forth that we use to keep it, support the soil.
Are there folks who are totally organic?
There are some who are totally organic, and we try to respect that. The garden is not classified as an organic garden, but we try to encourage people to follow that. We do planting of cover crops in the winter for people that aren't using theirs, and to turn that over. That's one of the organic fertilizers that we use. We try to have neem oil and other kinds of organic pesticides and fungicides, so if people wish to choose that. So we try to encourage people to protect the soil. And
talk about that. Be good to the soil we were talking about.
There's something like 40,000 living organisms in a tablespoon of soil. I mean, I don't know exactly, this scientific thing, but the soil is alive, and all the nutrients for the plant and the vegetable come through that root system and up through into that plant. And so protecting that soil, enriching that soil, getting that soil better and improving it is one of the things we advocate and one of the things we're trying to learn to do. And so that's why we try to use horse manure as an organic kind of fertilizer. But we also have other things, and we do soil tests. We test.
What is that to our folks who might not know? Tell about a soil test.
We went to every plot, all 60 plots that we had there, and we took a sample soil and sent it off to Raleigh.
Right.
And they analyze it and they send it back, and they say the pH of your soil is this, and you need to add lime, or you need to do this, or the zinc quality is this, and the metals in it, or whatever you have. And they scientifically analyze it and then tell you what to do to improve the soil and for the crop that you're growing, in this case for vegetable gardening.
Okay. So, Gary Dent, you also mentioned the importance of bees and birds, and we also have won't you talk about the new bee? You call it the bee garden or
butterfly garden?
I'm sorry. Talk about that, Ken. No,
yeah, I'll be glad to, and I apologize in advance. The young lady at the Cooperative Extension Service.
I'm sorry.
That led that is escaping me. But anyway, they came to the town. The town really likes to participate in community events, and so they came and said, we think a butterfly garden would be great at Cub Creek, and so so I got with Cliff Gardner, our Parks Director, and we sent it to our Parks and Recreation Committee, and they all endorsed it, so it's a great idea. And they said, well, if we're going to have this, we ought to have it close to the community garden, so that way you get the benefit of those butterflies pollinating the different plants. So we created that butterfly garden this spring. There's already butterflies out there. As the summer goes on, it'll only improve. So that's a neat thing. But it's part of that, I guess, the circle of life there of trying to make sure that things get pollinated and keep going. And the bees and the birds and the butterflies and such are an important part.
Now, how do you know what to put in the butterfly thing? How do you?
I can't say that's my expertise,
Okay,
but the Cooperative Extension Service,
Right.
they're aware of the types of flowers
Yes.
and plants.
Yeah,
Okay, so there's certain things that will
attract
draw the butterflies.
Yes, and
Okay. Earlier, we spoke of the nature of growing things, how it changes every day, how, talk about the learning curve, if you will, for those who have plots there in the half acre that's so important to our community.
well, I think that every year you have different weather patterns and you have different cool or hot seasons, and that it's just a constant learning experience. Everybody thinks, well, there's exact science to this, but everything changes. So what it was last year is different than it was this year. So we are constantly learning to adjust to the weather patterns and to climate conditions, and to look at the plants and try to analyze and understand what the plant is telling us by their leaves or the fruit on it or the lack of fruit, the amount of sunlight. One of the things we are concerned about is every garden needs at least 6 hours of sunlight. So one of the things we have to be concerned about is that a gardener doesn't plant tall crops that would block the sun that would, from their other garden plots. So things like tall corn, we've got certain plots that we let grow corn, but that's like 12 feet tall. Those corn stalks are
Yes,
huge.
yes.
And also, sunflowers can be huge plants and so forth. So anyway, we're constantly adjusting and trying to learn and meet the needs of the gardeners as best we can. The Ag Extension Service people are very knowledgeable and help us understand viruses that attack the plants and what to use to improve them or try to control the viruses and things like that. So,
What are some of those viruses that just virtually wipe you out? Can you share some of that?
well, I don't know all the names of them, but there are thousands of viruses, and the thing I know is that you can control them with sprays, but you can't get rid of them with sprays. You can't. It's just a matter of trying to reduce the damage. A lot of times it's remove the plant from the garden if it's damaged, and so it doesn't contaminate others. We're concerned about people touching plants and passing on the virus from one plant to another. So you have to be careful with the soil that you bring in. You have to be careful with the other plants that you bring in, that you don't bring in contaminants and so forth. And we're all the time, we have tools that we share, so we have to disinfect tools and things like that.
Disinfect.
Right. So we use isopropyl alcohol as a spray to disinfect the tools and things like that. So,
Gary Dent, how amazing the knowledge. Do you have some close friends that are you down there about every day, or some other guys or women you'd like to mention?
well, of course, I don't think we could survive without Faye Kennedy. She's our master gardener that you probably met down there this morning, and she does a tremendous amount of work on that the plot, the master gardener plot. She was the one that brought me into the community garden. She said, hey, we're going to have a meeting, won't you come and attend? But she has produced like 158 pounds of food this year in that community garden, in the master gardener plot.
And all that goes to charity.
And that all goes, right. And
Wow.
she's just a really dedicated person. Bill Hanlon is recently retired, but he has just been an amazing person to help
Incredible.
us and guide us through. We couldn't do it without Cliff Gardner. I mean, he's connected as the parks director.
Now, you said he was here when you came to town, is that right?
Yeah, he was an employee when I got here.
Okay.
Pretty quickly promoted him to the director.
So did you know he had this passion for doing this then, or?
I knew how meticulous he was then, and that told me that I thought he would be successful in running the operations down there. And if you go down to our parks, you can see the pride he takes into the work that they do, both on the ground, the equipment, and facilities that he maintains. He expects he has a high expectation of what should be
You
done.
mentioned a Jerry Swaim.
Jerry Swaim, yeah. Jerry's a gardener, and he wanted beans. He likes beans, so he planted a plot with just beans so far. Now he's doing a second planting right now, but he got 118 pounds of beans off that one plot so far this year, and he's broken it down and he's planting some other things now. So he's going into his second season garden. But
Share again the 4 feet. The width is, I thought that was just a neat thing.
4 feet wide is obviously it's designed so you can work from both sides and not have to walk in it. So you can reach 2 feet and so forth. So that's why we designed it as.
Is there any significance about 24 feet? Is that enough for a person
Well,
working?
it gives about 100 square feet, 96 square feet, and we just picked that as what people seem to be comfortable with. You know, you can raise a lot of food in 100 square feet, and it's just a nice size without overworking people.
Fertilizer. Tell us about, is that a,
Well, we use fertilizer. We use the manure as a fertilizer, and then we have a synthetic fertilizer like 10-10-10.
okay.
One of the things we discovered was some plots had real depleted nitrogen, and so we had some 3400, which is a special, and we apply it based on the soil samples, and so that's how. We also have some gypsum, and that doesn't change the pH, but it enriches the soil and it makes the soil more workable and that kind of thing. And we use lime to help adjust for the pH and that kind of thing. So those are basically the
You're just a
things that are
wealth
provided.
of how to make things work. I'm so glad y'all are here. And we want to thank Wilkes Communications again and River Street and WIFM, and you're advocates, you're ambassadors, and share with us just a closing comment, if you will, about the essence of the Cub Creek Community Garden.
Well, I'll just say, it's an exciting addition to our park system, having the garden there. We would welcome people to sign up. I think the greatest thing is to have a waiting list. Hopefully that would spur other gardens to be developed in the community.
Good.
I think it's just a great opportunity for us all in this community to work together.
Thank you, Ken Noland. And Gary Dent?
Well, I just wanted to mention that we have a community garden at the Wilkes Community College. Wilkes Community College provides plants for us, and Fern Valley and some of the other garden centers have helped us out with plants and with discounts, and we just very much appreciate the partnership that we have in the community, and we invite people to come and join us and enjoy fresh fruit, enjoy the nutrition, and eat healthy. And the exercise benefit of gardening is just wonderful. You just don't have to do other things. You can just garden, and it's a wonderful exercise.
And the social dynamic of embracing people and learning new friends.
Yes.
And you've enhanced my life today, and I'm so glad you're here. Ken Noland, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Gary Dent, what an honor. And
Nice
let's
to meet
do
you.
this again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.